That's a bite.
All set, and today's goal is a simple one: catch carp at range. With me today are the Sonik SK47 rods and the Carbon 7000 reels, and this is the combination I'm going to be using today to try and catch fish at the furthest casted distance I've ever caught them from before. Now, previously I have caught carp from as far as 280 meters away, but that was using a bait boat out in Poland, a huge reservoir. But casting wise, it's only about 100 yards. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I've never really done much long range casting. I've cast further than that before, but never caught. So today's remit is just to catch something over 100 yards, and that to me is long range fishing, because it's something that's out of my normal comfort zone of a distance I don't normally fish at. So yes, a lot of you are probably thinking 100 yards, that's pathetic. But to a lot of people, it's not. I think long range fishing is anything that casts you further than where you normally would. And that's exactly what these rods are built to do. Help you cast further than what you normally would, and at not a very high price point. So we'll get onto the rods and reels in more depth in the video, but firstly I just want to catch a carp. So these are both pinged out there at about 110, 120 yards with solid bags, so either one of these goes off, I've already achieved my goal. Just got to hope that one of those bobbins starts dancing soon. That was a very breamy bite, but fishing at distance with mono could suggest it is actually a carp. Time will tell. That was fun, bringing in a bream at 110 yards. I mean, they aren't a bad size in here, let's put it that way. Not what we're after. Well, that's that bream slipped back, new solid bag tied on and ready to go. I'll get through all the tech specs of all the things you need to know about these rods and reels at some point, but I really want to catch a carp first. But in basic terms, 12 foot, 3¼ pound test curve rod, and the reel is a Carbon 7000, and I'm using 22 pound mono straight through. This is Sonic's own mono, and it's really good for casting. So I'm not using a really lightweight line, so getting these distances with a fairly heavy duty line straight through. Let's whiz this one back out. There we go, right in line with the boy, and hopefully we can get another one. Well, not another one, a carp. I don't want another bream, but this place does have quite a good stock of bream. So if I was fishing a feeder, Son, if you want to send me a feeder rod and do a session on bream fishing, I won't be the happiest person in the world because they're not my favourite species, but this would be a good venue for me to come back to. And of course, got to have the handles lined up with the spools all lined up as well. Otherwise, definitely won't get a carp. Well, safe to say this ain't no bream. I really hope I get it in because it feels all right, but it's let me have a good test of this rod and reel combo. So not only have I been able to fish at a good range, I was actually just about to move this one because I'd seen some fish closer in, which I know the idea of this video is to fish at range, but if you've got 10 shows at 60 yards, you shouldn't ignore it. So I was just winding it, about to pick up the rod. I had a little occurrence on this probably 10 minutes ago, but nothing more. So whether it's just my line was caught on something, I wasn't getting much indication. As I picked up the rod, there was something on the end. I've also subsequently tangled my right-hand rod. Another fish just boshed there. There's plenty of fish in front of me. And let me have a good test of these rods. Really nice playing action, actually. Considering I've cast quite a good distance, the tip is very forgiving. You can probably see that. Really nice. It's probably like, this is probably the most cliche thing you can say, a bit like in the automotive world when they say, oh, handles like it's on rails. It's a lovely progressive playing action, but it really is. The clutch has got a quick torque drag on it, so adjustments are not really slow, they're actually quite quick, but it doesn't mean I'm not able to fine tune it. This fish is getting a bit closer in now, and I could be dragging in loads of line, a big snag or something, and it's not actually that big, but it's just a solid weight. There is actually a catfish or two in here, so I wouldn't have thought it'd be that. But if this is a carp and not a snag, I would say it's not a bad fish. Oh, there he goes again. And there you go. So I haven't touched the clutch. I had it set perfectly for bringing it in. But as soon as it took a run, it was off. And really progressive. That clutch isn't jumping as it suddenly takes. This has a rod and reel combo. There it is on the surface. Oh, it's a catfish. A catfish in March. Oh, I had an inkling it could have been. Right, so I've had a bream. And unless I was completely mistaken, that was a catfish. And it would explain why it didn't really know it was hooked after that occurrence. Maybe it's just been sat out there. But, yeah. From the little flick of the tail I saw, it didn't look like a carp to me. And that would explain why it feels like the biggest thing in here. It is a catfish. Oh, right, see if we can get it in. Oh. I mean, there's the test of the, the strength of these rods. Going straight past my other line again. Here it comes. Oh, stabbing at it. Oh, come on. Oh, it's in. Well, that's not what I expected when I left the house this morning. A personal best catfish. Interesting. Right. Let's bring this other one in as well because it completely took this one out. Ah, there was me thinking I was going to have a venue record carp on the end. It dragged this one all over the place. There you are, proof I am fishing at range. Because this is one that went out and they're fishing next to each other out there. There we go, right. Let's deal with a catfish. Trying to hold it like a carp. But that, apparently they're about the 40, 50 pound mark. Not what you expect to get in March. Oh, interesting nonetheless. A proper test of these rods. Right, see if we can get some stills. We'll set rods back out. Hopefully the next bite will be the target species. And knowing the way this session's going, I'll hook a pike or something. That's a bite. Well, as you can probably tell, that one was cast to where there was loads of fish jumping that I couldn't ignore. Whew. Just trying to have some lunch. No, I'd like to think this one is a carp now. So this one finally is a carp. So I can talk to you about exactly how it feels to play a carp on these rods. And as he's getting closer in, he is getting really head noddy. And that tip is just absorbing in it perfectly. So this is the 12 foot 3 1/4, as I said earlier. So just bear that in mind. It may change slightly with the different lengths and different test curves. There he is, he just popped his head up. So he might go a bit mental now in the shallower water. But all of these little head knocks and shakes, it's absorbing it lovely. Gonna go under that rod, lovely. I can feel everything that's going on. Oh, nice looking mirror. Finally, the target species. That took a lot longer than I expected it to. But what a bite, eh? This may be a very quick show because I may lose him very quickly. But there we are, the first carp of the day, and hopefully one of many more to come. Oh, still can't get over that bite. Pick another solid bag out and hopefully a few more of these and maybe even a bit bigger. Okay, well I've done a bit of cheating. I've had that carp, but it was close range. I still haven't technically caught a carp. Well, not technically, I haven't caught a carp for over 100 yards on these rods. I have caught a catfish, I have caught a bream, I haven't done the main objective of today's session, which is catching a carp from that range. So I am going to ping this one back out to the full range that I was fishing it before, over 100 yards out towards that buoy. But quickly, before I do that, I did say I'd talk a bit more about the specs of these rods. Once again, just to reiterate, this is the 12-foot 3¼ pound test curve. There's a variety of different rods available in the SK47 range, from 10 foot all the way up to 13 foot, which is obviously the biggest, beefiest casting rod. So if you want to go way further than what I'm doing today, maybe step up to the 3½ pound, or maybe go up to the 13-foot option of these rods. But the basics of them stay the same throughout. You've got high modulus carbon throughout. The tip section has a multi-layered or multi-directional layup of carbon, which means it's a lot more accurate when you're casting, especially when you're giving it the beans. And it also makes it recover a lot quicker. Because the carbon's laid up in different directions in basics, it means that it can't waver left and right too much. It makes it much more accurate, much more responsive. And thanks to the minima guides that are used throughout, it also means it can snap back a lot quicker, aid in the casting distance, rather than that tip section still flapping around. It pings back to straight quick as it can and doesn't have any more hindrance on the line itself. So it's a really strong, slim blank. As you've seen, I've been casting quite a good distance today. This casting weight, I'd say, is getting up towards 4 ounces now. I'm casting straight through with a 22 pound mono, and it's casting absolutely no issues whatsoever. It's down to a 17mm black DPS reel seat, so it should fit in all manner of different reels or big pit reels. The one I've got on here today is the SK47 Carbon 7000, which I'll talk a bit more about in a second. I do want to ping this out, and then that runs down to Japanese shrink wrap handle with a little flared butt section for extra grip, and on the very bottom you've got an anodized section with the S logo etched into it. So just ping this one back out. There we go. Not my best solid bag I've ever tied up, so it was wavering a little bit in the air, but it got out a good distance. And that's just hit the deck, try and sink the line. And we'll talk a bit about the reel. Now the reel, I would go so far to say, quite simply, is the nicest looking reel that Sonik have ever made, in my opinion. That's obviously subjective once again. They've done some gold spool options before, things like that, but I would say this looks the nicest out of all the reels they've ever made. And it's the lightest at just 454 grams. It is far, far cheaper than other reels on the market that have that sort of weight to them. It's loads cheaper basically. So you're getting a really lightweight reel, and the balance of this setup today has been really nice to use. So just bring that line down. Helps if I'm not resting on the other line. So it's a really nice balanced setup. Because it's lightweight, it means you can move the rod through the air a lot quicker as well. They've done this because the main construction of this reel, the internals, the sort of shafts inside, is carbon, and carbon fibres are a lot lighter. Then you've got an aluminium spool, quite a long nose one, so the capacity of line is quite up there. Not sure of all the stats, you can check all that out for yourself. Today is very much more a real-world application of actually using these, putting them through the paces, giving them a try and seeing what I think. And I've got to say, you've seen from playing a catfish, a carp, a bream, is up to all sorts. It's been nice to play fish on them. That line's now fully sunk. The clutch has been nice and smooth. It's got a quick torque drag on the front, so small adjustments. That's lock solid at the moment from casting. If I just turn that, say, let's do a quarter turn. That's just starting to give. Quarter turn. We're now pretty much a really loose drag, which I'll be happy to put out there for the clutch of actually having a take. So half a turn, I'd say, from lock solid to free spool. But it doesn't mean you can't adjust it subtly, because I've played a variety of fish today and I've managed to adjust the clutch to a setting which has worked for me on each of those fights. Just close that down. And the reels themselves on the spool have 2 line clips, so you can use 2 different spots if you want to be really accurate. I've never really fully understood the 2 line clips on a reel, whether you want to have I guess if you had a further distance one, then you're often using it shorter, you could use the second one. Either way, there's that there. You've also got a line protector or a line rotor guard at the very bottom of the spool, which goes up and down with it. So when that line becomes a bit looser, there should be very little risk of any line going up under the spool, which is an absolute nightmare if you ever had it happen. You have to loosen off the spool, take it off, untangle that line. And if that's gone all around the shaft on the inside, often damages the line and is an absolute nightmare. So that being there means it's much more protected. You've got your other things which are much, well, standard for reels really. You can use backwind or normal. You can change the reel handle to either side. Again, these are things you'd expect on most reels now, but the actual finish of them, I think they look really nice as well. Predominantly black, but you've then got the red whippings around the handle itself, and then on the spool, just to give that little bit more of a classy look to them. I think they look quite a luxury item. They do stand out against all that black, and they actually match in really nicely with the red graphics and detailings on the SK47 rod. So all in all, I think you'd say it's quite a nice looking setup, and it doesn't cost very much at all. The rods come in, I think they start around the 70 quid marks. The rods really aren't breaking the bank, and of course that's going to change whether you go for the 10-foot model all the way up to the 13-foot model, but it really isn't too expensive. And then the reels retail at just £69.99. So again, they aren't breaking the bank for something that looks and performs as well as these do. I don't think you can quibble about the price. That alarm is now set. Put that into the line clip, which is one of the other points I didn't actually raise on the rods. They have an integrated built-in line clip. Turn the alarm on, and we are back fishing again. So that is the SK47 rods and reels in a nutshell. Hope that didn't waffle on too long, because this is all about the actual practical uses of these. And hopefully with a few hours I've got left to go, they'll go off again, especially this longer distance one with a carp on the end. Well, I'm going to be honest, in case you couldn't tell from the take, this one also wasn't from at range, but if I was to ignore these fish that are closer in, it would be bad angling. You've seen I can cast a better distance with these rods, but the fish just simply aren't out there. They're much closer in, and here's proof of it again. Probably only 40 yards out. So yes, I failed my ambition or challenge of catching fish at greater range, but they just aren't there. Probably just pushing into the £20 mark, and I've got a few more hours left to go. But challenge failed, but catching fish succeeded. Proof that the SK47 rod and Carbon 7000 reel are up to the task of casting those distance, but also much closer in if you need them to do as well. Lovely. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed being out here fishing for them, catching all manner of different species. And hopefully before I go home, I'll catch a few more of these as well. But that's where I'm going to end it for you guys today. Slipping back in the net, because I do want to get a photo. Any more information, please check them out on the Sonik website, and maybe pick these items up for yourself. And as I said, the SK47 rods start from £74.99, I think they are, RRP, but shop around, I did see some, the 10-foot models for around the 70 quid mark already, and the reels as well, same sort of price. So a rod and reel combo of around the 150 mark, you really can't complain. I was just taking photos of the first one, which is back in the net, and the rod that I pinged back out after I'd landed this one with a ready-made solid bag. It's just whizzed off again. Great fun. The fish are in close. There seems to be a good number of them in front of me now. So, although the video's ending for you, I'm going to stay on, enjoy my fishing, enjoy using this setup, and hopefully catch many more fish going into the evening. I'll apologise to my wife and baby when I get home for staying out a bit too long. Great fun. Well, it'd be rude not to show you that one after the battle. Smaller than the other one, but very welcome and beautiful colours on it. Right, that really is the end of the video for you. See you again.